So I want to welcome you to the masterclass, Master the Mental Game. I'm Dr. Greg Steinberg. Thank you so much for joining me. This is sponsored by the International Golf Psychology Association. What I'm going to do for the next 3 weeks is speak for a while. And because this is live, even though I am recording it, and you will get the recording tomorrow, I'm going to stop and open it up for you to ask me a question on the chat box. Okay, so if something comes up, just ask me in the chat, and then I'll come back to it and answer it. Okay, that's, I think, the best way to go about it. So with that being said, let me just give you a little background of myself just quickly. Some of you have taken my course, taken my webinars, but I just want to tell you a little bit in case you haven't. Went to UC Santa Barbara for my degree in psychology, went to Florida State, a master's in sports psychology, went to the University of Florida for a PhD in sports psychology, and I've been teaching at Austin Peay State University, which is just outside Nashville, for 25 years, basically sports psychology. So I have I would say, really good background in research and theory, which I think is important. But I also have done a lot of application. I worked with professional golfers like Brandt Snedeker, Chris Couch, Brian Gay, a bunch of players on the Korn Ferry Tour, bunch of college teams. I worked at the University of Florida when they won the NCAA championship. So I worked with a lot of college teams, men and women, worked with a lot of juniors. And what I want to do tonight is really just share with you my experiences, because let me kind of tell you my goals for tonight. My goal is to share with you my philosophies, but more importantly, to share with you my techniques, what I've learned over, I think I've been working with elite athletes for about 30 years, started at Florida State. And so about 30 years. And then, share with you some of my mistakes. I do want to share with you what I do. I have a mental game academy in Nashville. And so pro golfers will fly in, or college golfers or junior golfers. And I kind of want to share with you what I do with them. Some of you maybe already have a mental game academy. Maybe you are going to start one. I know some of you are interested in, perhaps starting your own practice as a mental game coach. And that's my goal. I mean, I know you're going to get a certificate. It's a certification course from the IGPA. But ultimately, my goal is to share with you what I do and help you become a mental game coach. And just so you know how the Mental Game Academy in Nashville works, so I basically spend a day with them. And when the day's over, I play golf with them. I play competitive golf. I've played a lot of amateur events. So I usually like to play golf with them, and they can see that I can play. And especially the young players, it builds trust. And I would say this, if you can play golf with them. If you can't, I don't think it matters per se, but if you're pretty good, play golf with them. I think, number one, you can earn respect. Also, you see a lot of stuff when you play golf. So I play 18 holes with them. I sit down with them, develop a mental training plan. And then if they like what I do, I tell them, I could put you on a retainer where you can call me, every other week. Or come into if they live in Nashville or close, we could play like once a month. I know some of you, I always get the question, what do you charge? And because this typically don't tell people, I do, but I'll just share with you because, I know a lot of people are interested because they want to maybe start their own mental game academy. So I charge $750 for the day. It doesn't matter if you're a pro or junior, I just keep the same price. And then give them the mental plan. And I'll talk about how that works. Usually I work on one thing. And then retainer just depends on how many times they want to play, how many conversations. So that's always up in the air. So for the day, I know Bob Rotella, he would charge, this is maybe 20 years ago, like $2,000 for the weekend. You'd come to his house for the weekend. So I thought 750 was fair. And so that's why I tell you that. So let me move on. And the 3 weeks that we're gonna talk about the mental game. Tonight's about awareness and confidence. Next week's about anxiety and dealing with anxiety and concentration. And then the third week's motivation and practice. The other thing you can do is, this is recorded, and you also have my email, but you can always, email me and say, hey, can you cover next week this topic? And I can throw in any topic you want too. So you can always email me and say, hey, you asked me a question, or, can you cover a topic? And I can throw it in, because it's all about you, right? This is live. And so it's helping you. So let me discuss the juice. And I like to do this in my sports psych class, but I think this is a good visual. And of course you can steal it from me. And I always say, level 1 question: if I squeeze this orange, what comes out? Orange juice, right? Always orange juice, not apple juice, not pineapple juice, always orange juice. Level 2 question: why? Why does orange juice come out? Because that is what is inside. Level 3 question: what have you put inside? If you put in fear, negativity, and doubt, that's what you come out. That's what comes out, because we always get squeezed. We get squeezed on the golf course. We get squeezed in life, and there's a lot of pressure, especially in golf, especially in competition. But the best golfers, they've put in peace of mind and confidence and joy. So when they get squeezed, because we all get squeezed, that's what comes out. And it's my goal to share with you tonight how to help your students put in the right juice, because ultimately we know in psychology that our habits come out under pressure. So what you're trying to do is develop positive, effective habits in your students, because the habits come out. And so under pressure, if you're negative, your negativity is going to come out. But if you're totally positive, your positivity is going to come out. So we always kind of go to our, you might say, our true nature under pressure, but really our habits. So your goal is really to help you and your students develop positive, effective habits. So when I'm at I'm not sure if you can see the part, I have to leave this box open, and I think you can see it. It's when, if anyone shows up late, I got to let them in. So I got to kind of keep it open. So when someone comes to my Mental Game Academy, I always ask them the same question. First question: if I could wave my magic wand and fix one thing, what would it be? And they might say, I want to be more confident, or deal with my nerves, or, focus better. So the idea is we work on one thing. And, the mistakes that I've made, and I know you've probably made in the past, is you try to, you can see a bunch of stuff and you want to work on everything. No, just work on one thing. So just focus on confidence. Just focus on dealing with their nerves or anxiety. And you can do this other stuff later. But I think the secret is just focus on one thing and kind of hit it hard, hit it again and again, and give them a bunch of strategies related to that one thing. And we'll talk about the strategies in a minute, but the idea is, hit it hard. And I think the idea is when you focus on one thing, you keep it more simple. If you focus on a bunch of stuff, then it gets complicated. So I don't use psychological tests because I don't think they're pertinent. I think everyone's unique. So the secret is harnessing your players' uniqueness and talents and strengths, figuring out what they do really well. So what I typically do out of the box, this is the first really main question I ask him. I would say, tell me a time when you played your best in the tournament. What thoughts and feelings did you have beforehand? What thoughts and feelings did you have during? Do why? Do you think you had those? And then I would say, tell me a time you didn't play well. Same thing, tell me what did you think beforehand? What did you think during? Why? And then I would basically ask them, what do you think would be one main difference between those two? And they would, whatever they say, doesn't matter. It could be my intensity level, or I was going too fast. I felt like I was really fast when I played bad, and I felt like I was smooth when I played well. So it doesn't matter what they wrote, but the secret is whatever they say is key. Now, what I want to tell you is when you're working with someone, there's a thing called tells, right? What they tell you is important, and what they don't tell you is important. So you got to listen to what they tell you, but also what they don't tell you. And you got to pick up tells. Everybody has a bunch of tells, and if you're like open to that, you can pick up a lot of stuff. But these questions help pick out tells and let them become aware of themselves. Because the goal in psychology is when you become aware, you can move in the right direction. So awareness is the cornerstone to change. So you always focus on awareness first, and then you focus on change. And hopefully you help your players become more self-aware. I mean, that should be your goal. And so when we have like one main difference, I focus on a theme for them, basically, for the day. Let's say, we're at the Mental Game Academy, and I use primers. So, primers are words, actions, and images, which push our emotions in the right direction. Think of music. Music's a primer. When you hear, a song you like, it can make you sad or it can make you happy. So the idea is usually I can, the first thing I do is, get them to think of some buzzwords. So like if their intensity was when they played their best, they were really pumped up. Maybe, we would use the buzzwords, find your fire. Like with Brandt Snedeker, he felt like, when he played his best, he was smooth, he was like in sync, rhythmical. So, we use the term smooth. So the idea is that you got to figure out some of these buzzwords. And we're going to, for the next 2 weeks, we'll talk about how to use other primers too, or this theme throughout when you're working with your player. But the idea is they could use this this buzzword, at the start of their routine, the start of the day, between shots. The idea is it kind of reminds them of the time they're playing their best. And the idea is that you have a buzzword that brings up an emotion, a feeling. Because the idea is that if you can feel it, then you can transfer it to your swing, like smooth. And it doesn't really matter. It's good if you can sometimes push them to find the right buzzwords, but the idea is that buzzword makes them feel it. And if it does, then it's the right buzzword. Find the fire is a good one. But, the idea is that it's based on the difference between their best and their worst performance, and get a buzzword. And it kind of acts as more of a theme that you're going to incorporate throughout the day, or, weeks or months that you're working with the player. You can always come back to that. Yeah, smooth, and you just bring in images that relate to, smooth, or words, self-talk relate to feeling smooth. So the idea is that it's a theme that you're working with. So I think that's real important, that you create buzzwords, or really primers, that promote a feeling that they can kind of capture. The other thing I do is I try to create like a 360 approach. So like if I'm working with someone who has a job, who's maybe 40 and they've come to my golf school and they're working on their mental game, they're a good amateur or whatever. I say, what do you do for a living? If they say, I'm an accountant. So I know they're going to be analytical. I'm a Wall Street broker. They're going to be like a risk taker. What they do, we gravitate towards like a personality. So I think it's real important to know what they do. And if it's a student, I just say, what's your favorite subject in school? And if they say math, I know, well, they have more of an analytical mind. If they say art, then maybe they're more creative. So it's real important to know those kind of stuff. And also like, what sports did you play And the reason why I do that is I can kind of bring examples from other sports when I'm maybe making an example. So it's not always about golf. So I try to, get a feeling of everything of the person as I'm using my toolbox, because everybody's different and you're communicating and to a unique person, and you have to resonate with them. And so the words and images you use, if they relate to that, then your message is going to be more powerful. So one of the things I do at my golf school is I have this ATM system. And, of course, ATM is, money cha-ching, being, being money under pressure means you can handle pressure, right? So A stands for attune yourself to the green. And I'll talk about that in a minute. T stands for triggerize, or get a trigger, and M stands for makes no difference. Now I'm going to talk about T and M next week. But tonight I want to talk about attune yourself to the green. And specifically, well, let me just say this. When someone comes to the golf school and we're doing stuff on the golf course, a lot of times we just go straight to the putting green, because I want to share with them this system, because I think it's important. But the first thing I tell them is, and this relates to eye dominance and awareness of your eye dominance. It also relates, as you'll see, to confidence. And we're also talking about confidence tonight, so it transfers into confidence. But when I ask people, and they're on the putting green, I say, what's the one main difference between when you're putting well and you're not putting well? And everybody will say almost the same answer. It's, I'm confident about the line. And to me, being confident about the line has everything to do with where you position your dominant eye. Now, let me just say, yes, I'm a sports psychologist, but I also have taught motor learning for 30 years. And you might say this is a little bit more of a motor learning concept, but to me, it relates to sports psychology. It's real important. Now, not everybody knows what their dominant eye is. So I'm going to share with you how you can find it really easy. But I have a link there. So what I'm going to say is related to. You could go to that link. You're going to get these recording of this, so you can just see that link. But it goes into, let's say, the same thing I'm doing tonight, but maybe a little more detail. And the first thing to find your dominant eye is this triangle test, right? And so what you do is you make a triangle and you sight a clock or whatever, 30 feet away. And with both eyes open, you sight it. And then you close your right eye. If it's in there, your left eye dominant. You always sight with your dominant eye. So you don't hold your eyes like you got to hold your triangle out here, right? So the idea is if you hold it too close, so you just hold it out and then sight it. Now, if you close your left eye and it's in there, your right dominant. You always sight with your dominant eye. So think about this. If you always sight with your dominant eye, you better putt with your dominant eye. But no one really does this. And let me explain how you can do this. So this is how you test for people. And the reason why I'm telling you this is there's always a few things that people love that I do, and it's real tangible. And this is one of them. They always come away from my golf school like, yeah, I get this. This really helped me. So this is why I want to tell you this, because you always want them to come away with a few like golden nuggets, oh yeah, that really helped. Okay, so you got the line aimed, let's say left edge. And it's hard, you can see this, but let's say the hole is left of that ball. So that line is aimed left edge. The hole is left of the ball, and I'm talking as a righty, okay? Now, you take your dominant eye, I'm left eye dominant, and if you could drop a coin, so if you get over the ball and you drop the coin, it would drop right behind it, and you would see where that line's aimed. You would put your position again. Now you drop, you could do your right eye, doesn't matter, I'm left eye dominant, but you might be right eye dominant. You would then drop the coin right over it, and then ahead of the ball. Okay. Now here's cool, what's cool. So I'm left eye dominant right-handed. Jack Nicklaus is left eye dominant right-handed. And I read his books, and he positions his eyes behind the ball. That ruined me, because when I position my dominant eye which is left behind the ball and the holes to the right, that line would look right, even maybe not even right edge, but even farther right, and it's aimed left edge. This is where I need to put my dominant eye, actually ahead of the ball. So if I dropped a coin, it would drop right in front of the ball. And it's literally like the line goes like this when I move my eyes ahead. And so now I can see the line. You know, a lot of people say, well, I don't like to use the line because it doesn't feel right. Well, think about this. When you putt, there's only two variables, line and distance. So if you can take away line and focus on distance, or what I call the feel zone, you're going to be a lot better putter. And so so what I do, again, this is about awareness, knowing your dominant eye. Once they understand this, and you test for this. So the first thing I do when I go to the golf school, when they come to my golf school and we're on the putting green, I do this on the putting green, the first thing. And I say, I'm going to test for your dominant eye and see where you need to put your dominant eye. And once we figure it out, because you just test for it, they'll like, so when they put their dominant eye behind the ball, I say, where does that line look? And they might say right edge. And I say, put your eye over it. Where does it look now? Middle of the hole. And then I tell them, put it ahead of the ball, left edge. And it's aim left edge. I said, that's where you need to put your dominant eye. Or vice versa. Maybe they need to put their dominant eye behind the ball. Everybody's unique. It doesn't matter if you're left eye or right eye. You might need to put your eye behind it, over it, or ahead of it. You figure it out. You test. You could easily test it, 5 minutes. And now we got something tangible for them. Okay. And then so I say, when you set up for your putting, set up with your dominant eye. Now you're going to be able to see the line. Now you're going to be confident. And people love this because, there's a lot of golf instruction, which talks about put your eyes right over the ball. That's false. Your dominant eye is key. Think about if you're target shooting, you always use your dominant eye to aim the rifle. You got to use your dominant eye to aim, right? And I will talk a little bit more about that, with other things, but for putting, it's huge. And again, when they place their dominant eye correctly, they're going to be confident because now they see the line and it feels comfortable to them. And boom, they're going to be real thankful to you. I always thought everybody, the guys on tour, ladies on tour that are great ball strikers, but they're not great putters. I think it's because they're not putting their dominant eye correctly. And I bet dollars to donuts, if they put their dominant eye correctly, they'd be much better putters. And I always tell my players, you got to use the line. Almost everybody uses the line now, but I say you got to use the line because once you got the line aimed correctly, and you got to, be good at aiming the line, then you just let go of the line and you're in the feel zone and you're feeling the distance. So now you're thinking about one thing. Your mind can't think about two things, and it'll only think about one thing. And this is where sports sight comes into play. If you're in the feel zone, you're going to make more putts. So you got to let go, let go of the line. Don't be analytical. Get in the feel zone. But it's all set up with your dominant eye, setting the line correctly, and then letting it go. And that's why it's so important. This is the first thing I do, and it really resonates with a lot of people. So we're gonna go to confidence in a minute. I'm just gonna stop here and see if anybody has a question. Does anybody have a question they want to ask me about this? Now, related to the dominant eye and how to assess it and stuff, go to that link, and I have like a 20-minute video on that link. But if you have a question, I just thought I'd stop here to see if anybody had a question, because right now no one has asked me a question. And again, you don't have to ask me a question. It's okay. You could always email me and I could address it next time. Maybe, you don't have a question exactly yet. But again, I just wanted to stop because it's live and I'm trying to interact with you if we can. I can't open up. If I open up the voices, it gets really, there's too many people on this webinar right now. So that's why we have to do the chat box. So I see no questions. So I'm just going to move forward and I'll come back to that in a minute to see if you have any questions. So to me, confidence is king. What I mean by that is when you're confident, you're going to be less nervous, you're going to be able to focus, you're going to be motivated. So confidence is maybe the one thing I always try to work on with players But again, at the golf school, they can work on anything they want. But I think it's real important to work on confidence eventually. It all a lot of times relates back to confidence. But here's the kicker. I always tell my players, doesn't matter how bad you're playing, doesn't matter if you've hit 2 balls out of bounds. Confidence is a choice. You have a choice to be confident. And if you choose to be confident, you'll increase the probabilities of playing better. It doesn't mean, the idea is just because you're confident doesn't mean you're going to play well, but you increase the probability of playing well. So you want to choose to be confident. And I love the story about Stacy Lewis. I know a lot of you know who she is. She's one of the great players on the LPGA, and she wore a back brace. She had scoliosis growing up, and she always chose to be confident. And now look at her. She's a superstar. The idea is all the great ones choose to be confident. No matter how bad you're playing, you want to choose to be confident. And really, that's a great thing to tell young athletes, young golfers. It empowers them. You have the choice to be confident. It doesn't matter how bad you're playing. You can always choose to be confident. And if you make that choice, you're going to play better eventually. And the reason why I say eventually is because we all know through a round, golf has peaks and valleys. You can have a couple bad holes, maybe a bad 9. You have peaks and valleys, the way life is too. And when you're in that downward slide, if you choose to be confident, if you stay confident, if you don't doubt yourself, don't overthink, you can get back right out of that rut. But the problem is, a lot of times when you overthink and now you're calling yourself names and you get negative, you can get in that downward slide and it keeps on going and you get into a slump. So that's why it's real important to choose to be confident and know that you can be confident no matter how bad you're playing. And I'm gonna focus on one aspect, and then I'm going to come back and answer some questions. So the way you choose to be confident is what you do as well. So to me, there's 4 main things to stay confident: what you say, which is self-talk; what you do, your actions; what you think, your images; and how you act. So basically, I'm gonna talk about those tonight. And to me, I would say there's 3 main fundamental skills in mental toughness, sports psychology. One is meditation, and we're going to talk about that next week. But being able to stay calm under pressure, key fundamental. Next one, visualization, visualizing the right things at the right time. And 3, self-talk, what you say to yourself. To me, those are the main 3. Now, there's other ones that are real important too, but I think if you master those 3, you're going to do pretty well under pressure. So let me just what you say. So one of my favorite stories is about Tom Watson, 1981 US Open, 7th hole. It was at Pebble Beach. He misses like a 2-footer. And he says to himself, even great putters miss easy putts. Think about that. He says to himself, even great putters miss easy putts. He's like being his best friend. He's talking to himself into greatness. And that's what great players do. So what I have all my players do is develop a best friends journal. And a best friends journal is you just write a positive self-statement. Well, let me go back a step. You get like a 45-cent book from Walmart, you put it in your golf bag, and you write a positive self-statement at the start of every practice session around. I'm a great putter. I'm going to have a great day today, whatever it is. So they get into a habit. Remember, it's all about habits, positive, effective habits. And if they get into a habit of being their best friend, making positive self-statements, then when they get squeezed, that stuff comes out under pressure. And so for Tom Watson, he's at the US Open and misses a 2.5-footer. Think about that. Most people, you stink. You're the worst. I can't believe you. No, even great putters miss easy putts. So the idea is that when you get squeezed, if you're positive, that's what comes out. That's the juice. So I just want to talk about one other concept related to this. and it's the negativity bias. And the way it works is 40,000 years ago, when we were hunters and gatherers, we pretty much had to be negative. We were like, that thing could kill me over the rock, or if I got over here, I might die. It made us survive in a hostile world. And so it's a lot of times, I think it's a carryover. A lot of people are negative because if you think about it, it's easy to be negative. So, and it becomes a habit to be negative. And we all know those people. So I want to share with you a thing I do with my clients that's great to get rid of the negativity bias or negative thoughts. You put a rubber band, make them wear a rubber band, and every time they have a negative thought, they have to snap it, not really hard, but just snap it, and then have, let's say, a positive self-statement ready. Snap it like, they just saw it, I'm gonna hit this ball in the water, snap it, I'm gonna hit down the middle. I'm gonna miss the green, snap it, I'm gonna hit the green. The idea is they replace with a positive, and over time, their habits become more positive, and then when they get squeezed, the right juice comes out. I also have this on, you can see on the slide, they can slap their leg or whatever, and that's fine too. I think the rubber band works more effective. I've had a lot of clients use it. It's one of the most effective tools that I use to replace negativity with positivity. So I'm going to stop here for a minute and see if I could answer some of these questions. So those questions were about the dominant eye. And again, let me just say, it's kind of hard to do the dominant eye in a webinar. It's way better to do it in person. Watch the video. I think you'll get it. I explain it, in the video. Again, I don't want to go into more detail, but just watch the video if it was a little confusing. But the one question that I wanted to address was, it was asked, when do you not use your dominant eye to set up for putting? I would say you always use your dominant eye. The one thing I didn't mention was sometimes, and I didn't want to get too complicated with the explanation, some people put their eyes over the ball, and then some people put their eyes inside the line, which is between the ball and their toe line, let's say. I would say, you could do it either way and then do the same setup. Put your dominant eye when your eyes are over the ball, ahead of it, over it, and behind it. And then inside the line, do it again, ahead of it, over, in it, behind it. So there's 6 conditions. And out of those 6 conditions, which one is the best to see that line? So that line is aimed left edge. Which one looks exactly left edge? And whatever looks left edge, maybe it's inside the line and your eyes are ahead of it. Or maybe it's over the ball and your eyes are behind it. It doesn't matter, or it really matters what your client sees, of course. But the idea is you could test for 6 conditions, not just 3. So I kind of went through it fast, but the idea is you gotta use your dominant eye. I think it's real important. And there's one more question. Let me just see if this is different. Okay, negativity bias. This question is, I see the negative bias all the time, people beating themselves up. How do you keep their self-talk and ads from affecting you and your game when you're playing with them? That's a great question, because I get that from students all the time. My playing partners are negative, or they're slow, or they're affecting me. Well, guess what? You've chosen to let them affect you. If they're negative and that bothers you, you've chosen that. And that's what I tell them. Choose to not let them bother you. Choose to have a wall, built up a wall of armor, or whatever you want to call it. And the idea is, bounces right off, or you laugh at it, but if it's bothering you, you've chosen to let it bother you. And again, that's hard, right? Easier said than done. Of course, it's easier said than done, but you got to get a habit of doing that, And if you tell your players, okay, and we're going to talk about this with adversity plan in a minute, but if you tell them, all right, if one of your teammates or your playing partners get negative, what are you going to do? You can let you get negative, or you can say, I'm not going to let that bother me. So you get ready for that situation. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that in just a couple of minutes with the adversity plan. But if you're ready for that situation, and you say, I'm going to choose not to let that bother me, then it shouldn't bother you. And again, it's been a habit to allow your playing partners to bother you, right? If my playing partner is playing so slow, that always bothers me. Well, you've chosen that way. If you're a fast player, I get that, but still, you can get in your own rhythm and choose to not let it bother you. And again, easier said than done, but when you're creating effective, positive habits, then it comes out, the juice will come out under pressure. And that's what you're trying to do with your clients. Make the right juice come out. So this is kind of cool. I don't know. This is something I always picked up, and maybe you picked it up too. I'm always been a Tiger Woods fan, of course, from the get-go. He kind of started the same year I started Austin Peay. And so, I've always been a fan for a lot of reasons. But one of the cool things that I picked up was when he was in a slump, and he was in a lot of slumps through his career, he always would tell the press, I am close. I am close. Remember that? I am close. Now, that does a lot of things. One is, it's like he's being a good friend, best friend. But I'm also going to tell you that is what optimists say. And if you're an optimist, you're going to be a lot more confident. Why do I say that? Well, when people think about optimism versus pessimism, they think glass is half full, glass is half empty. It's not related to that. It's related to how we explain success and failure and outcomes. So science now knows that the difference between an optimist and a pessimist is how we explain failure and success. So how they explain it, so an optimist, when they explain, and I'm going to go a little more detail in a minute, but when they explain failure a certain way, they believe success is around the corner. Okay. And because success is around the corner, they're going to still be motivated and confident. So if I'm close, that means success is around the corner. But a pessimist, when they blame failure, they think it's more permanent. And so failure is more permanent. And that's why they lose their confidence and they lose their motivation. Now, let me go in a little more detail. First off, I did my master's thesis on this. So, I'm interested in this area. Second off, if you look at this video that I have linked there, you can, it goes into a little more detail about this, what I'm about to tell you, okay? But what an optimist does is when they fail, they blame it on three things. I call it the TUF strategy, TUF, temporary, unique, or flexible. So when Tiger Woods is saying, I'm close, he's making failure temporary. Like, it's just around the corner, I'm going to be successful. Unique would be something like they played really bad in a tournament and they'd say, that course just didn't match up with my game. Unique is specific for that situation, but the next tournament, the next course is going to match up with my game. So success is around the corner, right? Flexible relates to something within your control, like strategy. Or how I practice. I'm going to practice my short game a lot more next tournament. And because I'm going to practice my short game, I'm going to be successful in the near future, the next tournament. So TUF basically are explanations for that failed event, but ultimately it makes them believe success is in the near future. And therefore they stay confident, they're motivated, and those are keys. Now, what a pessimist does is kind of the opposite. They blame it on things that are permanent. So I always play bad in tournaments. More not specific, but more across all situations. I'm not a good tournament player. And then no matter what I do, even if I get a sports psychologist or I work on the thing, I'm still going to choke under pressure. So success is or failure is continual. And so there's two things I want to talk about in regards here. One is, because I knew this theory and how to apply it, I heard Tiger Woods say, I'm close. I knew exactly what he was doing. He was being very optimistic and explaining the situation so success is in the near future. So he stays confident, he stays motivated. But more important than that is you now know what to listen for. But even more important than that is you can help your players become more optimistic. It's changeable. So if they're more in the I'm not good, I can't do anything, it's always going to be bad, more permanent, you got to change their mindset, and you can do it. Of course, it becomes a habit because they're negative, but you can change it to be more optimistic by telling them things like, no, maybe that course didn't match up with you. Or even better, perhaps, is if we work on this meditation, you're gonna be able to control your anxiety under pressure. If we work on this, you're gonna be able to control your focus under pressure. So the idea is they feel like they're more in control, and then if they understand that, then they believe success is around the corner and they become more optimistic. So I'm going into this pretty fast. I could do a whole lecture on this, and I do in sports psych. I talk about it for a whole hour. I'm just kind of doing it quickly. But if you go to that video, it goes in a little more detail, but it really relates to optimism versus pessimism. And the great ones are optimistic for a reason, because if you're more optimistic, you're more motivated, you're more confident, and you believe no matter what happens to you, you're more resilient. Even if you fail, success is around the corner. I also want to talk about something that really was cool that happened to me. So I was at the University of Florida. I was the sports psychologist for the golf team. Buddy Alexander was the coach, and they had some great players on there like Brian Gay, Chris Couch. I mean, they won the national championship. So you got a lot of great players on there. You know what Buddy made him do? He made him play from the ladies' tees. Not all the time, but every once in a while. So you got these guys on one of the best teams in the country play from the ladies' tees. I'm like, what is he doing? Well, think about this. If let's say you shoot 70 typically from the back tees, and now you play from the ladies' tees, which of course you're probably going to, have a better score because the yardage is less, and then you shoot a 64. Now you think I can shoot 64. You don't think about it. You shot it from the ladies' tees. You can see it now, and that's what he made him do. He made his players believe it because now they saw it. I call it the Roger Bannister effect because, 1954, Roger Bannister broke the 4-minute mile. Before that, no one thought it was possible. But that year afterwards, there was I think 18 other runners who could break it or something like that, who broke the 4-minute mile because now they believed it and they achieved it. Well, that's what I'm saying. A lot of people don't believe they can break 80 because when they're close, I'm not an 80 shooter, and they get nervous and they have a couple bad holes. From the ladies' tees, and this is what I have my players do every once in a while, and they don't want to do it, but you make them do it, or the up tees or whatever. They have a better score, and now they think, oh, I just shot 70, and I'm usually 78. Well, now I know I can shoot 70. So that's a really good technique. You got to do it, and once you see that you do it, you can believe it. So you got to see it to believe it, and then to achieve it, right? So I'm going to stop here for just a second to see if you have any questions. I don't see any questions, and that's fine. So I'm going to talk more about this next week, but I just want to talk a little about imagery because imagery is related to confidence. To me, imagery promotes feel. It's the essence of feel. So think about this. If you're trying to explain a putt to a player, how hard should you hit it? You can't really explain it unless you explain it with an image. It's going to break this much, and you got to hit it along this arc, and then that promotes a feel. So the image promotes feel. So to me, to have a great short game, you got to be in the feel zone. And we're going to talk a lot about this next week too. But imagery is the essence of getting to the feel zone. And the more you do it, it's a skill, the better you get at it. You can close your eyes like Jason Day, before a shot. It depends what you want to do. It's fine. But what I noticed is a lot of people can image better because we speak with our hands, we eat with our hands, we're hand dominant. So to help people image, I have them use their hand. So here's a perfect thing that I would recommend you do. When you're on the putting green, you tell your player to mark the ball, pick up the ball, and get right over the ball and the hole's, let's say 10 feet away, and just feel like you're gonna roll it with your hand. Of course, you don't release the ball, you just feel like you roll it. Well, now they're kind of using their hand to visualize, and they'll see the arc that much better. They'll feel it. Or as another example, let's say they're 20 yards from the green. Now they can't pick up the ball, of course, but they use their right hand to kind of feel the trajectory of the pitch shot they're about to hit and how hard. And the idea is that when they use their hand, kind of they almost feel like they're throwing it, then they can see the trajectory of the ball they're about to pitch. What I'm getting at here is when you use your hands, it promotes greater visualization. And the greater you visualize, the greater your feel. You're on the tee, right? You want to hit a draw. Maybe as you're visualizing the draw, you go like this, like you're going to close the face a little bit. Or if you want to visualize a fade, you go like, like you're opening the face. You do that with your hand as you visualize. The idea is, to me, it's been like one of the key things I've learned in the last maybe 10 years is when you tell people to use their hands, they can visualize a lot better. And the greater you visualize, the greater your feel. And the short game is all about feel. So the greater they can visualize, they get in the feel zone and they can make better putts, chips, pitches, whatever it is. But the secret is to get into the feel zone, and you can do that with visualization, or that's kind of the key, is visualization promotes the feel zone. And I have this other thing, you can see it through your own eyes, like what it feels like, or you can see yourself on a TV screen. They're both important. I would use both. Sometimes like visualizing yourself on a TV screen, you might do that the night before and visualize yourself playing a whole round, as you're on a TV screen or through your own eyes. It doesn't matter. But the idea is that you do visualization, you use a lot of it, and it gets you into the feel zone. All great athletes, golfers, tennis players, visualize. It's the essence of the mental game. And that's why I thought it's a foundation skill. The better you get at it, the better you'll play. But it takes time and practice. And this relates to another concept, the golden nugget concept. And the golden nugget concept is this. You nutted that 5-iron, a week ago. You write in your book, your best friend's journal, or wherever you want, what it felt like. Oh yeah, beautiful. I released the club. Oh, it was beautiful. It was at Hillwood Country Club, and I hit my 5-iron exactly the right distance. And then the idea is it's kind of in your back pocket. So now you come to a tournament or whatever, and you have a 5-iron, and you visualize that same 5-iron you hit. It brings up these great emotions, and those emotions then transfer to a greater swing. So that's just another example how to use visualization. I call it the golden nugget. When you hit that beautiful drive, you just write it down what it felt like, and you try to recall that feeling and that image next time you're under pressure. So I'm going to stop here because I see there's 2 questions. And Brett asks, this is something I'm deficient. How can you teach visualization? Well, I think everybody can visualize. That's what you got to get through to your players. And if they didn't visualize, it's because they're not doing it. We all visualize. Think about when we're reading, we're visualizing. Everything we do is related to visualization. So you just got to get them to incorporate it into their mental package. And using their hands, talking about it, maybe verbalizing it, it just depends on the player. You got to figure out what works for them. And the secret is, get them to do it. The more they do it, the better player they're going to be under pressure. So this is what I was talking about with the adversity plan. And, the secret to being successful under pressure is that bad things happen to you. Bad things are going to happen to you under pressure. In competition, you're going to get some bad breaks, bad bounces, bad luck. Maybe not every round, but in a lot of rounds you are. And it kind of all equals out. You're going to get some good breaks too, but you're going to get some bad breaks. And it's not the bad breaks that you have to deal with. It's your reaction to the bad break. So you got a bad break. How are you going to respond to that bad break? And so a lot of times I tell my players, develop some 4 or 5 things that are going to happen to you that you don't like, that are going to be bad, and how are you going to respond? So going back to slow players, slow players always bother me. Well, how are you going to respond to that? My teammates are negative. How are you going to respond to that? I get it. My ball's going to land in a divot. How are you going to respond to that? The idea is that if you're already ready for with an effective response, then you are going to be successful, and it's not going to bother you. But if you're not ready, then it might bother you. And so that's why it's really important to develop an adversity plan. And after you talk to your players, you can tell what bothers them. And so let's develop an adversity plan for this. And then the goal is that you're helping them to have a positive, effective response when that bad thing happens to them. And then therefore they're going to be more successful. And if they're more successful under pressure, that's ultimately your goal. As for mental toughness, is to get them to be, of course, happier and joyful. But we're just talking about performance here. But ultimately, to be more successful under pressure. And then the one thing that I always tell sports psychologists, and I want to really encourage you to do, is you can talk to your players on the phone, but I always try to go to a tournament and watch them play, because you're going to see so much. If they come to the golf school, that's cool, and I can see a lot of stuff, and they're under pressure playing with me. But in a tournament, I see a lot. And so I always try to go to at least one tournament if I can and watch them play. If they're pros, you see them on TV, whatever. But the idea is to watch them play, because they're going to do a lot of stuff. Sometimes they slouch their shoulders when they hit a bad shot, and you can see they're getting negative, and they won't tell you that, but you can see it. And the idea is that, you got to strut your stuff no matter what. You got to be positive and have positive actions, because our actions dictate our emotions. And if you're positive in your actions, you're going to be positive in your emotions. And so it's real important to watch players in a tournament and see what they do. And the great ones always strut their stuff, like Dustin Johnson is great. He's always strutting his stuff. No matter how bad he's playing, the guy just, it's like he just looks like he's, runs the show, nothing bothers him. And, those actions make him feel that way. We know it's different inside, but the idea is his actions are key, also we know, like, if you walk slower, it helps you for your rhythm too. So your actions are important for your rhythm. If you walk fast, it's going to show you're nervous, and it's probably going to make your swing faster. So it's not only, it's real important for your confidence, but it's important for everything. So there's another question. I'm going to see what I can address. So the question is, I like your idea of getting your hands moving. Golf is a non-reactive sport. In other sports, we automatically react to the ball naturally. Moving your hands helps you to feel. Oh, so thank you. So that's just a comment. I don't know. But yeah, so again, doing your hands could help a player, but maybe it doesn't. You got to figure out how you can help that player visualize better. Maybe it's writing it down. I don't know. The goal is for you as the mental coach to figure out what works for them, because everybody's unique. And that one strategy might work with 5 players, but that 6th player it doesn't work with. What is it? How does it work with them? And they might say, here's an example that sometimes a cop out. Well, when I get mad, I play better. No, that's not why you're playing better. And for that, so that player thinks they get mad, they play better. It's because when they get mad, their intensity level goes up, and now they're playing better. So it's their intensity that makes them play better, not their anger. So the other thing is, that's why you go back to awareness, is they got to know themselves. But also they might say, I don't like that. I like doing it this way. But you might be on the right track. And that's why you got to listen to what they say and figure it out, and bring awareness to that situation for them. And the one thing I also wanted to say is, and I'm going to just address one more thing, your question. So we're almost done for tonight. So if you have another question, think of it. But some of you have already taken the online course. Some of you have not. This is a lot more detail. It has 6 sections, 15 videos per section, bunch of articles, applied exercises, these sections. And the idea is, if you go to masteringgolfpsychology.com, you can take the course for $89. It's usually $399. And it's sponsored by the International Golf Psychology Association. Just something if you're interested, but you can get a free ebook on the site and look at the conference section for free. So just wanted you to be aware of it. I think a lot of you have already taken the course, but maybe a few of you haven't. I just don't know which ones. So again, I just want you to be aware of that. So I'm just gonna, next week, we're gonna do cover anxiety, things like how to meditate, how to harness the energy of anxiety. We're gonna talk about focus and how to, pre-shower routine and post-shower routine. So a lot of good stuff next week. So same time next week, 8 p.m. Eastern time on Wednesday. You'll get the recording of this in the morning. Here's one question, if I can just address that. And not a question, just a cool comment. Thank you. Thanks for being with me tonight. And again, it's all about helping you. So email me with questions. If you want me to cover a topic you don't think I might cover next week, just I'll cover it. So it's all about you. So the more questions you have, the more topics, I'll cover those. I'm here for you. And that's what this course is all about.